All right, 35. Since then, in speaking, three things are requisite for finding argument: genius, method, which, if we please, we may call art, and diligence. I cannot but assign the chief place to genius. Yet diligence can raise even genius itself out of dullness. Diligence, I say, which, as it avails in all things, is also of the utmost moment in pleading causes. Diligence is to be particularly cultivated by us. It is to be constantly exerted. It is capable of affecting almost everything. That a cause is thoroughly understood, as I said at first, is owing to diligence. That we listen to our adversary attentively and possess ourselves not only of his thoughts, but even of his every word, that we observe all the motions of his countenance, which generally indicate the workings of the mind, is owing to diligence. But to do this covertly, that he may not seem to derive any advantage to himself, is part of prudence. That the mind ruminates on those topics which I shall soon mention, that it insinuates itself thoroughly into the cause, that it fixes itself on it with care and attention, is owing to diligence. That it applies the memory like a light to all these matters, as well as the tone of voice and power of delivery, is owing to diligence. Betwixt genius and diligence there is very little room left for art. Art only shows you where to look, and where that lies which you want to find. All the rest depends on care, attention, consideration, vigilance, assiduity, industry, all which I include in that one word, which I have so often repeated: diligence, a single virtue in which all other virtues are comprehended. For we see how the philosophers abound in copiousness of language, who, as I think, but you, Catullus, know these matters better, lay down no precepts of eloquence, and yet do not on that account the less undertake to speak with fullness and fluency on whatever subject is proposed to them. 36. Catullus then observed, "It is as you say, Antonius, that most philosophers deliver no precepts of eloquence, and yet are prepared with something to say on any subject. But Aristotle, he whom I admire more than any of them, has set forth certain topics from which every line of argument may be deduced, not only for the disputations of philosophy, but even for the reasoning which we use in pleading causes, from whose notions your discourse, Antonius, has for some time past not varied. Whether you, from a resemblance to that divine genius, hit upon his track, or whether you have read and made yourself a master of his writings, a supposition, indeed, which seems to be more probable than the other, for I see that you have paid more attention to the Greek writers than we had imagined." "You shall hear from myself," said he, Catullus, "what is really the case. I always thought that an orator would be more agreeable to the Roman people and better approved, who should give, above all, as little indication as possible of artifice, and none at all of having studied Grecian literature. At the same time, when the Greeks undertook, professed, and executed such great things, when they offered to teach mankind how to penetrate the most obscure subjects, to live virtuously, and to speak eloquently, I thought it the part of an irrational animal rather than a man not to pay them some degree of attention, and if we cannot venture to hear them openly, for fear of diminishing our authority with our own fellow citizens, to catch their words at least by listening privately and hearkening at a distance to what they stated. And thus I have acted, Catullus, and have gained a general notion of the arguments and subjects of all their writers."